Good afternoon to everyone, and happy Sabbath to all. Well, I'm a little bit under the weather, so I think I catch this cold when I was in Cebu, and I nourished it when I was in Bicol. So it's still here with me until today. So I bring greetings from our Naga brethren. I was there last Sabbath, so we had a wonderful Sabbath service there. In the morning we had our regular service, and in the afternoon we had sort of a Bible study. Okay, so I would like to remind everyone that next week is our Bible study week. Medyo maganda yung topic natin, which is God's treasured possession. So kindly invite our friends and our acquaintances that they may come and fellowship with us. Medyo maganda siya. So, how many of us in this room know how to drive a car? I want to know. Drive a car. Marami-rami din pala, no? How about a motorbike? Ay, kumonti na siya. Right. How about a bicycle? Ay, dami. Bicycle, ha? Okay. How about a unicycle? Unicycle. So, how many of us here is proficient in typing on the keyboard? Keyboard. Diba, I remember when we were in what do you call this? In high school, okay, there is this keyboard lesson, right? Okay, I didn't took that lesson eh. Kaya ako, okay. What is the minimum speed? 60 words or 120 words per minute? 60 words yata, ano?
60 words.
Per minute. So who can do 60 words per minute? Wala? They say that there is a mutation that's happening now, no? Okay. The most important finger right now is the thumb. Thumb. Before you don't use the thumb a lot eh. It's because of your cell phone. Okay, di ba? Cell phone, di ba? How do you type? You use your thumb to type. Okay, hindi naman pwedeng ganyan, di ba? Ako yun eh, ganyan. Pero sa inyo, bilis, dalawang kamay pa, two fingers. You see people at the elevators, mga call centers, mga BPO offices, bilis, both hands. Right? And they have become so proficient at it. Me, I don't know how to ride a motorbike. Never learned to ride a bike. And I don't know how to type. And that is me. Therefore, I always admire people who have such skills. Sometimes when you're on the highway and you see people with big bikes, okay, and they're moving in and out of the lane, di ba? Yung parang sa Mission Impossible, tagilid pa, katulad ni Rene, tagilid pa, di ba? So ang galing nila, di ba? They're so good at it. And you think that's dangerous for them? It's ordinary thing. And people who do bike trips, they go up and down of the hill, okay? Or yung they have this bike competition. Ang galing nila, they can fly with the bike, they can land with the bike, they can maneuver with this particular bike. Okay. Ang galing, super galing. And I always, have this amazement at people who have proficiency in, in the typing on the keyboard. One time I was called upon to be a witness in court, and there is this stenographer. Okay. Ang galing pala nila. While you're talking, while you're speaking, irrespective of all the sounds in the room, kaya niya. Okay. They don't have to look at it, at the keyboards. They just do it. For me, it's amazing. Those are amazing skills. We call this kind of subconscious behavior second nature, right? For people who drive a car, or a motorbike, or a bike, or being proficient on keyboards, they don't have to think about it, right? So when you drive a car, a driver does not have to think that he needed to accelerate to a certain speed. He doesn't think that he needs to brake. He doesn't need to think, that he has to turn the attention to the left or to the right. It's natural. Okay, to them, they don't have to think about when to accelerate or to be conscious when to make a break. And they can talk, they can carry on a conversation, they can tap on the listening to the radio, they can tap on the steering wheel, they can sing together with the tune on the radio, listen to tapes, even think, plan, and strategize what they're gonna do later on. And they can even have a heated discussion, with the other passengers while driving. All the driving movements, reactions become automatic to them. Second nature, as an idiom, is a mindset, it is a skill, and it is a behavior that is very ingrained, that is embedded, it's built in and well established in our system through habitual and constant practice, that it eventually over time becomes natural to us. It becomes automatic to us without need for conscious thought. The second nature creates in us an automatic response mechanism. Okay, so they say nakaroon ka na ng second nature. So it triggers automatic responses. Automatic response refers to a set of reflexes as an involuntary movement of the mind and body in response to a stimulus. It's just like when you're driving. Okay. When you see danger, immediately you brake. You don't have to think about it. You just brake. Okay? Or you try to avoid it by swerving to the left or swerving to the right. It's almost automatic. So you see somebody crossing the street, okay? In line with your driving, your response, your automatic response is to brake the car, or to swerve in order to avoid any collision. The automatic response comes with training and with practice. So when you practice something long enough, you become proficient to it, and it becomes instinctual. Okay, it becomes an instinct, something that you would do naturally, automatically, and subconsciously. Yan ang tinatawag natin na second nature. And I think all of us, we have developed that, in certain things to a certain degree. Okay. And this is what is known as automaticity. Automaticity is the ability to do things without thinking, without any deliberate thought. Ano kaya gagawin ko? No, it's not. Because it's an automatic response mechanism. Automatic siya. Okay? So this is what is called automaticity, is the ability to do things without any thought, allowing it to become an automatic response, or it becomes your habit. Right? It is the result of learning, of repetition, and of practice. Now, example of this automaticity, are common activities like walking, running, swimming, or playing any sports. Okay, like play your basketball. Okay. All of these are automatic. Right. Now, people who undergo rehabilitation, they have to learn to walk. We all learned to walk when we were small. Right? But eventually, it becomes so automatic for us to walk that we don't think about walking. Can you go back to when you were a year old, trying to crawl? Right? A baby, Mrs. Garcia, when did they start walking? 2 years old? 1.5? One. So start walking. See? So, but before that, they learn to crawl, and then they learn to walk. And we can observe a little young boy, a girl, trying to walk. They fall down often. But once they started to walk, they walk faster, they start to run, and eventually they forget about such abilities. That is automaticity. Okay, and same thing with our driving, with your motorbike, with your biking, with your cell phone, texting. You become so proficient at it that it becomes automatic to you. You are able to do these things without any thought, allowing it to become an automatic response or a habit. So after an activity is sufficiently practiced, it is possible to achieve this automated skill. Okay? As I said earlier, it's just like your driving, okay? Sometimes like singing a song, in a car, or engage in a conversation with the other passengers, or even thinking about a strategic plan, right, for on your way to the office. Second nature development allows us to engage in an activity in certain predictable ways in response to a situation, a circumstance, or in reaction to a particular environment. Hence, the action and behavior become intuitive, it becomes spontaneous, it becomes subconscious, and it becomes instinctive. That's what we call second nature. Okay. We were born with and learn certain nature in life. As humans, we're born with this human nature. That is our first nature. Okay, our first nature, because of the influence of Satan, is enmity against God. And if we continue this human nature, we will all die. Therefore, we need a second nature which is akin to the nature of God, that we may think, act, automatically like God. The Apostle Paul talked about this nature extensively, but since this is a short message, I would like to invite you to Romans chapter 8. Please go to Romans, the 8th chapter, talking about these two natures, the sinful nature and the spirit nature. So let's go to Romans chapter 8. Let's start from verse 5. He said, those who have lived according to the sinful nature, that is what we have initially acquired, if we may call it our first nature, is that those who live according to the sinful nature have their mind set on what the nature desires, which is the flesh. But those who live in accordance with the Spirit have their mind set on what the Spirit desires. Okay? The mind of sinful man is death, but the mind controlled by the Spirit is life and peace. The sinful man or the sinful mind is hostile to God. It does not submit to God's law, nor can it do so. Those controlled by the sinful nature cannot please God. You, however, are controlled not by the sinful nature, but by the Spirit, if the Spirit of God lives in you. So what Paul is saying is that we must change our nature. We must have a second nature in us. Okay? Because if we live the first nature, which is enmity against God, we're going to all perish. We won't make it. So we need a second nature. This second nature is the nature, the Spirit of God, which lives in you. And if anyone does not have the Spirit of Christ, he does not belong to him. But if Christ is in you, he said, your body is dead because of sin, yet your spirit is alive because of righteousness. And if the Spirit of him who raises Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Jesus from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies through his Spirit who lives in you. Okay. So we need to change, or we need to adapt to a different nature, okay, which is the nature of God or the Spirit of God. So therefore, verse 12, brothers, we have an obligation, but it is not to the sinful nature to live according to it. For if we live according to the sinful nature, you'll die. But if by the Spirit you may put to death the misdeeds of the body, you will live. Okay. So this is important. Is that we need, to adapt to a second nature. Okay. And this second nature that we're trying to adapt into is the Spirit or the nature of God. So this second nature is perfected through training and constant practice. Okay. So if we learn it, we know about it, okay? But for it to be an automatic response to us, we need to put it into practice. And this is what Paul again said in 1 Timothy chapter 4. 1 Timothy chapter 4 and in verse 7. Let's go to the latter portion. He said, verse 7, he said, have nothing to do with godless meats and old wives' tale. Rather, train yourself to be godly. So we are here, with an obligation to ourselves that we must train ourselves to be godly. And in Hebrews chapter 5, in verse 14, okay, let's go to verse 14. He said, solid food is for the mature, who by constant use have trained themselves to distinguish good from evil. Okay. So we must train ourselves and practice to the point that God's laws, God's righteousness, they all become an automatic response to us. It becomes our second nature. Once we have this second nature, then we would have acquired the automaticity to avoid temptation. Automatically, you avoid temptation. You don't have to think, tama ba yan o mali yan? You just instantly know na mali yan, I will not do it. Okay? So when we're exposed to danger of temptation, we automatically walk away. Because we see a red flag. Bawal yan. We just walk away. We do not have to think. We do not have to rationalize. We do not have to consider whether it is good, whether it is bad, whether we can do it, or whether we cannot, whether it is lawful, or it is not, whether it's righteous, or it's not. We don't have to think. We don't have to process that. Why? It's automatic to us. Mali yan. Hindi ko gagawin. So our automatic response system should constantly alert us of whether we are in the right or we are in the wrong. Okay? And we have developed certain level of this automaticity in our lives. Okay? You know, I can go on and go on, but because of limited time, I just want to talk about maybe certain items. Maybe a couple of ones. One. We did talk about dietary laws. Okay? When somebody gives you a pork chop, automatically you tell yourself no. You don't have to think about it. Do you? If you see lobsters, shrimps, automatically you walk away. You don't have to think, is this good for me or not? Automatically you walk away. Right? When Sabbath comes, when the sun sets, automatically you stop from your work. Nobody needs to call your attention to it. Right? So there are these automatic things. So when you see, you know, danger, you're alerted, you just walk away. Okay? Second nature to you. You know, you won't lie because you said to yourselves, bawal yan. Alert kaya. You won't bear false witness against your neighbor. Right? You won't. You won't covet. And you will not steal. So these are all second nature to us to a certain degree. But once we keep on practicing it, we become so proficient at it, it becomes our second skin. It becomes our second nature. Okay? Then, we now learn to be like Christ, think and act like Christ. Okay. Becomes our second nature. And the Holy Spirit that is in us actually helps this to develop. We need to make the spirit nature of God, the mind of Christ, as our second nature. It should be our automatic response mode always. Right? And this is what Paul said in Galatians chapter 5. Galatians chapter 5 and in verse 16. He said, "So I say, live by the Spirit, and you will not gratify the desires of the sinful nature." Yeah, because if the spirit nature becomes our second nature, okay, we have this automatic response against the sinful nature. For the sinful nature desires what is contrary to the Spirit, and the Spirit what is contrary to the sinful nature. They are in conflict with each other, so that you do not do what you want. But if you are led by the Spirit, You are not under the law. So that we need to develop this godly nature that becomes our second nature. Said the acts of the sinful nature are obvious. Sexual immorality. Alam natin, mali yan. You know, we don't have to think, mali yan? O pwede yan? We don't need to think that. Okay? We don't need people tell you, hey, that's wrong. Right? Having a relationship about your outside of your marriage is wrong. You know, why? Because second nature eh. Alam natin mali eh. You don't look at a woman, you know, with lust. Kasi bawal. Second nature natin yan. Okay? Impurity, debauchery, idolatry, witchcraft. You know, when we see somebody there, sometimes when you go to the malls, they have these people, you know, doing the tarot cards. Oh, stay away, we stay away. You know, as far as we possibly can. Okay? Because our second nature, our spirit in us tells us that don't do that. No idolatry, don't bow down to idols, no witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfish ambition, dissensions, factions, and envy, drunkenness, orgies, and the like. Alam natin, bawal yan. Okay? And our mind, spiritual mind tells us na hindi pwede yan. I warn you, as I did before, that those who live like these will not inherit the kingdom of God. He said, but the fruit of the Spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Against such thing, there is no law. Those who belong to Christ have crucified the sinful nature with its passion and desires. How? By developing strongly your second nature. Through what? Through constant practice. Since we live by the Spirit, let us keep in step with the Spirit. So that's what we are. We are developing today, you know, the nature of God in us. You know, so that it becomes an automatic response in our lives, becomes second nature to us. And eventually, the second nature that we learn in this life will be our first nature when we become children